Lucanis. What can I say about Lucanis? I think, me personally, I think that he was so overused as an advertisement, basically, as kind of like the face for Veilguard at the beginning when it was first introduced, that I was of the mind that Lucanis was going to be one of the best, most well-written characters in the game. And then you play Veilguard and you realize that that's not the case. I think, and I can say that about all of them, and I will eventually in other videos, but I think Lucanis is the one that is the most waste of potential for me specifically. They try to make him into the ultimate assassin. Like, that is an easy premise to just like pull off, an edgy assassin. And somehow they managed to ruin that. I will get into why I think Lucanis doesn't work and what would I change to make him work. But I think for me, mainly is just that Veilguard as a concept and as a game just took the setting of Dragon Age, a setting that is inherently dark and greedy, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's the world of Thedas. It's a world where there's racism, there's blood magic, there's slavery, there's xenophobia. It doesn't shy away from looking into the darkest parts of society, and they try to sand it away. They try to hide those parts. The problem is, then you're trying to sell me, in this case, a character like Lucanis, who comes from a line of assassins. He was born and bred and raised to be the ultimate weapon. And because you're afraid of actually going there, of actually showing me what that would entail, what would happen if you were raised to kill people for profit, that the entire premise of the character just falls flat. Because you are telling me this character is a very scary assassin, but I'm not seeing it. I just see a guy that likes coffee, cooks, and it's like a teddy bear. So there's this dichotomy of what you're telling me this character is and what I'm seeing. And sure, they can be done, right? You can have that dichotomy of a character, then can add depth. And they already did that. They did that with Severon. When you first meet Severon, you are manipulated into believing that Severon is less dangerous than he actually is. And then you get to know him, and you get to know his past and his backstory and how he grew up and what he had to do to become the crow, the man that he is. And you realize that Severon has so much more depth than he actually shows you, and that is done on purpose. Severon shows himself to be smaller, softer, more foolish, more easily approachable, because that's how he gets his targets to lower their guard. That's how he's trying to make the warden lower their guard around him. And if you actually explore that part of their relationship and you actually put time into breaking past the facade, the mask that he wears, then he actually starts to tell you about himself, the true Severon, the man behind the crow mask. And he tells you about being the son of a whore, of being basically abandoned by his mother, of being raised by prostitutes, of being sold into indentured servitude to the crows, of being shaped and molded and tortured into becoming a killing machine since he was very, very young, of doing terrible things at a very young age. And you talk to him and you notice that he's numb to it. He doesn't conceive why someone would be horrified to hear that he had such a terrible childhood, because he's become completely accustomed, completely numb to the idea of being an assassin, of being a killer, of being a murderer. And he will eventually also tell you that he enjoys his job, and that doesn't make you like him any less. Or maybe it does. Like, that is the beauty of storytelling and writing a character. It's just knowing that one person will love that character and someone will absolutely hate them. Me personally, one of the things I love the most about Severon was that beauty of contrast in his character, where he would only show you so much of himself if you didn't explore and you didn't deepen your relationship or your friendship with him, and how he becomes a completely different character the more you dig into why he is the way he is. And Severon is unapologetically himself. He is an assassin, first and foremost. He was raised to be an assassin and he will die being an assassin. And that is okay. He doesn't romanticize being an assassin. He doesn't present it as something honorable and courageous. He does not. It's just one of the many professions of the world of Thetis, a necessary evil in some cases, and just a straight up evil in the context of Antiva is ruled by assassins. The crows rule Antiva. And that is not good, but it is what it is. That is the reality of the situation, of the Antivan culture. And then you have Veilguard, and actually we get to see more of the crows, or that's what you think, but you get to see more of the crows as an organization, and you have been told about the crows prior. You have met multiple crows in, I think, both Origins and Dragon Age 2. I'm not sure about Inquisition, but every time that you meet a crow, they are assassins. Every time you meet with them, it's usually for contract jobs in which you will kill the people that they tell you to kill. And then you arrive in Veilguard, and the crows, they're this romance book mafia where they are the unsung heroes of their generation, keeping the peace. They're not truly villains, they're heroes. They're not actually as evil as they want you to think they are. And that's just utter bullshit. They have this whole thing where being a crow is like being in a big, happy, warm family, and they all look out for each other. And that's just utter bullshit. I know at some point Lucanis tells you, like, oh, very casually, that his grandma used to hit him as a child. And when you hear that, you're like, oh, I wish we could actually delve into this more. We could actually dig into, you know, why he's speaking of this so casually. Except in Veilguard, if you've played it, and if you haven't, good for you. I did, and I don't want to repeat the experience, but you cannot actually talk to your companions unless they are there for a quest. You cannot just talk to them and exhaust their dialogue tree and unlock new dialogue tree options with them. You can only talk to them as much as the game allows you to. So there's never a chance for you to actually explore his relationship with his grandma, for example, or to know how he was raised, what exactly went on behind the scenes, and what his training entailed, especially when you learn that he was raised to become the first talent of the crows, to actually become the leader not only of his house, but all the other crow houses. And they do try to make them a little bit more sinister, the crows and organization, by, spoiler, making his cousin the one that betrays him and tries to get him killed in multiple occasions. But it doesn't really land because we don't have a point of comparison of what their relationship truly was like growing up, for example. Like, we don't get to talk to his cousin. We don't get to talk to Lucanis about their relationship as children, of how they were pit against each other, for example, or how Lucanis always came on top. You cannot build up a relationship with his character or the other companions because the game doesn't allow you to actually get to know them as much as the ones in Origins or Dragon Age 2 or even Inquisition. You only see as much as they want you to, and that for me just shows that they didn't really think it through. They didn't really build them as people. For me, one of the most important parts of making and writing a character is to know where they come from. Who were they before I dropped them into my setting, into the first chapter of my story? Who were they before? Why are they the way they are? Because we see glimpses, not even glimpses. I'm talking like Lucanis has a lot of character depth and he doesn't, but we are told, we don't see this and we don't get to find out by ourselves. We are told that he is the best assassin that ever assassinated, ever, that he is known as the mage killer, so he specializes in killing mages. But we don't get to see any glimpses of this, and we don't get to see how he became the best assassin ever. Then we see him being soft, being nice, being kind. And again, this can be done. You can have a character who is a murderer, and then to the people around him, they're the nicest person ever. But that's all we see from Lucanis. We don't see a character growth, especially considering that the Veilguard as a concept, as a group, is just a ragtag team of strangers being forced to work together to save the world, as it usually is. For Lucanis to be so open and trusting and kind and willing to sacrifice his time and his life for the team that he just met, it's completely dissonant in the story. I think you get him and then you have like a main story cutscene with him, and the next time that you speak with him, he's like, hey, let's go grocery shopping. And you're like, what do you mean grocery shopping? And this guy that you have not seen interact with anyone, you haven't even seen him interact with the main character, Ro. He just knows everyone's preferences in food, and he takes it upon himself to cook for the team. And sure, again, you can have Lucanis being nice to the people that he cares about, but why does he care about the Veilguard? It doesn't make sense because there's not enough time, there's not enough storytelling to get me to believe that this is something that he would do. It's just something that they showed me. I wish that they had actually taken their time into building up a depth to his character. I wish that Lucanis had been dark and edgy and, full of himself, ambitious, arrogant. And it is only after you chip away that you actually see more layers to him. Especially considering that he's basically crow royalty and he's been told his entire life that he's better than every other crow. I wish we had seen some character flaws. A character that is only one note, that is only nice, only good, only trying to redeem himself, only this, only positive things, doesn't connect to the audience. It doesn't give me time or a reason to actually care for him and actually want to save him or redeem him or doom him if I want to. The game just tells me he is a good person. This man is a good man. He has a heart of gold. But I want to be able to see it for myself, like I did with Morrigan, like I did with Sten. I want to be able to talk to them and actually persuade them or push or give them a gift that they mention in passing, and to see their reaction and to see them opening up. And that is one of the main things I would rewrite for Lucanis. My Lucanis would be selfish. He would be arrogant. He would be cruel. Even. He has been raised in a family that is literally built on the backs of children, of enslaved children that they torture and shape and manipulate and brainwash into becoming their daggers, their weapons. And Lucanis was forced to be better than everyone else because there was the expectations, the weight of the De La Morte surname on his shoulders. So Katarina always pushed him further than everyone else. And sure, he excelled at being an assassin, but it came at a cost. We see it on Severon how decades of being told you have to kill, you have to get the job done, or the next target will be you. You have to make sacrifices. You cannot get attached. That actually just breaks someone's mind to the point where they will see murder and killing someone and getting their blood on their hands as something normal, something they're numb to, or something they will even begin to enjoy. For Lucanis, I would just make him like his job. He doesn't even see it as a job. He sees it as a calling. He likes it. He makes an art out of killing. That is why he's so feared even among crows. That's why he's so hated among crows, because he is the best and he's not even trying. He's not trying half as hard as everyone else. That's why his closest cousins hate him and why he's always in danger and why he was betrayed. There's a reason, because he's arrogant. He makes enemies everywhere he goes. And that will give you a premise of who this character was before you met him and why he ended up where he ended up when you finally release him or help him get out of the ossuary. And then there's the entire premise and plot of a spite, a non-mage being possessed. That is unheard of in the world of Thetis. Lucanis' psyche would be damaged, would be broken beyond belief. He would be resentful, angry, furious, lashing out, because there's something in his head with him, something equally as feral and violent as him, and it wants his body. It wants to possess him. It wants to become him, and he refuses. And that internal fight would bleed out into reality. And I need to see the threat of a spite, the threat that Lucanis could become. Think about it. A demon possessing the body of the best assassin that ever was. An abomination by themselves are a threat as they are. But as we have it now, the possession of spite in Lucanis' body would be seamless. They wouldn't be mindless. They would be in complete control of the body they possess, and most likely they would have access to all the skills and knowledge that Lucanis has. So imagine Lucanis being possessed by a spite. That would make him one of the main threats of the plot, in my opinion, where you have to put in a balance a spite and Lucanis' worth and what they bring to the table, or the threat that they might possess if they end up spiraling and out of control. I need to see a spite taking control. What would happen? Show me glimpses of the massacre, of the utter bloodshed that a spite in Lucanis' body would entail for the world of Thetis. Is it worth it to have Lucanis in your team? Does the good outweigh the bad? I need to see it. Show me. Show me how my companions might get hurt. Lucanis falls asleep after days and days of not sleeping a wink. He blinks and he's fallen asleep. A spite takes over the body. And when Lucanis wakes up, he wakes up in the middle of battle, of the middle of an encounter. And his enemies, the people raising their weapons and casting their spells, are his companions, his team, his people. A spite attacked them. A spite tried to leave. A spite tried to break away from the Veilguard. And when they were trying to stop him, he lashed out. He maybe almost killed one of them. And that is a pivotal moment in the story where you, as the protagonist, have to make a decision. You have to make a choice. Is it worth it to keep Lucanis in the team? Do you put him out of his misery? Do you attempt to find a solution to break the possession, to separate a spite or Lucanis? Do you think it's worth to melt them into one being, to strike a bargain with a literal demon and doom Lucanis' soul and cast him away from his body because a spite might be a better ally than Lucanis himself might be? Choices. That's what I need. And I need actual consequences. If I decide to keep Lucanis on the team, is there a way to minimize the damage if maybe you have enough relationship with him, or if you do not get along? Is there a higher risk of getting your throat slit while you sleep? And if you do have a higher relationship, that would be when you get glimpses of the man that Lucanis might have been if he had never been an assassin. He enjoys cooking. He likes the taste and smell of coffee. There's glimpses of who he is under everything, under the facade, under that arrogance, that ambition, that volatile, violent nature that he was instilled with as a child. I want to know more about his relationship with his family, with his grandmother. His grandmother abused him, tortured him. Sure, in the name of making him a successor that was worth of becoming the first stallion, of basically ruling Antiva. But there has to be some frustration, some hate even in that relationship, where he does love her because that is his grandmother and that is the woman that raised him after his parents died. But that is also the woman that took the chance of having a normal life away from him, that pushed him and hurt him more than she hurt any of the other contestants for first talent in the heir position. She chose him, and that doomed him to a life of blood and murder and not not being able to sleep through the night because there's always that risk of something waiting for you in the shadows. And I wish they could have gone more into that relationship, that love and hate relationship, and maybe giving you as the player some choice in how that relationship plays out. Does he forgive Katerina? Does he hate her? Does he end up confronting her about what she did to him as a child? I do believe that if given enough room for creative choices, and if they had been more faithful to the original tone of the setting of what Dragon Age is truly like, maybe we could have had something interesting, something that will stick with you, a character that you will think of years down the line, like it happens to me with Alistair or Stan or Morrigan or Liliana. Just characters that speak to you even when you have nothing in common with them. Just characters that grow with you and you can see grow throughout the game and throughout the story, and you can help become better or worse, or not help them altogether and leave them to their fate. Writing is the most important part, the core of RPGs as a whole. If you don't have good writing, if you don't have a solid foundation on which you're building your world and your story, then like it happened with Veilguard, the entire world collapses under its own hubris. You cannot move forward without acknowledging what's behind you. You cannot build a new narrative on top of the ashes and bones of what you destroyed. You need to acknowledge it. You need to honor it. You can change it. You can learn from it. But there has to be growth. There has to be a step-by-step journey where you move from maybe a darker, grittier setting to a more hopeful one. And that's also applicable to characters. You don't have to have a dark, miserable, sad, angry character throughout the entirety of the story. They can be that and become a cheerful character, become like charming and happy and kind. But there has to be a journey. There has to be a visual growth. The player has to be there for that character. They have to be there to see them blossom into someone else, someone better, a better version of themselves, if that's what you wish to achieve. But when you're just telling me a character is good, you're just telling me this character is nice, this character is amazing, you need to love this character, but you don't actually put in the effort to make me care, then why should I?